believes I can't sleep.
It's time to listen to Courtney at last on the Ramblings of an Insomniac podcast.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Ramblings of an Insomniac. I am Courtney. Holy hot Batman. That's so funny. I started saying that sentence and I was going to say something entirely different. And then that came out as in not just like something referring to hot. I was going to say holy crap, referring to a whole other topic. Anyway, hi. Holy crap, it's hot, number one. Where in my neck of the woods, it's been, it was in the hundreds. It's been in triple digits for the past 3 days. This is the fourth day. It's supposed to be that way tomorrow. And then it goes down to, goes down to, air quotes, upper 80s and lower 90s. And then it'll stay that way for like a couple of days, and then it goes up to triple digits again. So summer has begun. I know there are people in Arizona and people in other states or other countries that are like 103. Psh, that's no big deal. Who cares? But if you're not used to 103, it's hot. Okay. I mean, just like there's people that bitch about the cold and rain, and I've lived around the cold and rain forever. I mean, not necessarily cold as in snow, but like rain and wind forever. And I could say, what a bunch of babies, because I'm used to the rain. So, you get used to your climate. And if you're not used to triple digits, it's forking hot. And if there's some humidity, granted, we don't have super high humidity, but we get like 80% humidity. That's pretty up there. We get 60 to 80%, and that's pretty freaking humid. So it's hot, and I'm not a fan. The older I get, I swear it's a thing. You cut your hair shorter and you start having less tolerance for heat. The older you get, it's just a thing, at least for women. Speaking for women, I don't know what men do, but speaking for not all women, of course, I'm not speaking on behalf of all women. Okay, let me rephrase. I will speak for myself and something that I seem to observe, something that I have observed. And that is that it seems the older women get, the shorter their hair gets. And I think there's even a quote about it or a book about it, and purple hats. But also just how you're not so heat tolerant, Now I like it about, at least again in the state of Oregon. I don't know about other states because maybe 75, 80 would feel way cooler, but I like it, about 75, 79, right in there, That's perfect. Tiny little breeze. I want there to be just enough wispy clouds with, some unicorns floating by and some kittens around. I'm like Goldilocks. I need just the right, environment. Anyway, how's the weather doing where y'all are? Is it hotter than Jesus? Or I know in like Australia, you guys are going through what, winter right now? Blows my mind. My kids were in Australia in the middle of December through the first part of January. And, it was hot. It was summer. And it was cracking me up because we were having snow and ice. And it just always is such a bizarre contrast to me when someone will be talking about how hot it is and wherever they are. And then meanwhile, someone else in another part of the country is putting on their scarves and hats and mittens, Crazy. So that's my spew on that. I'm currently in the shade right now because I'm being a baby. Plus, I'm a pasty Swede. We don't really get dark. We just get different shades of pink. So, and then I have, I'm Russian, I'm Swedish, and Welsh. So a whole lot of fair-skinned people that don't see a lot of sun. So sun doesn't bode well for me all the time. Anyway, hey, what is on my mind? I'm just going to cut to the chase. Alcoholics. Yep, this is another podcast about addiction and the wake that it leaves. Hey, Mo, where are you going? Mosby, the wake that addicts leave behind. And oh God, I got to rein my dogs in. Bon Bon, come on. The wake that addicts leave behind. Here I am trying to do a serious podcast while I'm like calling my dogs. That's professional and very serious. But first I want to say I know and I understand very much that addiction is a disease and that people with addiction issues definitely are not trying to make other people's lives miserable. That is not their intention. That's not what they're going for. Most of the time they're blissfully unaware, or a lot of times they are well aware and they want to fix it and they have the best intentions of doing so, but the follow through is the part that's not executed. It's the follow through because, of course, quitting alcohol in particular is crazy hard because you have it everywhere. It's very available. You can get it everywhere. I like painkillers. I think painkillers are great. If I had access to painkillers on the shelves everywhere in every... Oh my gosh, my phone was ringing. This is just turning into a whole thing, but it's infuriating when you are when you're the person that's not the addict and you're having to be the pooper scooper and other people, again, it's not necessarily that they're not aware of, maybe they are aware of what they're doing, but they just can't stop. They just can't. That's why you're an addict, right? You're an addict because you are compulsive. You don't have those boundaries. One just isn't enough. So I understand again that if it were easy to just stop doing something, then it wouldn't be an addiction. But that maybe they are trying, but they just lack the follow through. That's what I was saying. They lack that follow through. And I get all of that. But again, for the people that are left in the wake, left picking up the pieces, it just gets exhausting and it gets old and you start not trusting anybody. And that's not cool because not everybody screwed you over, but that's what you do. You start being untrusting of everyone. And I don't want to be that person that's just bitter and angry and resentful and doesn't trust others or think everybody's a piece of crap. That's not a way to live your life, that's for sure. It's not a way to, it's not a way to live your life. It's a lot, it's heavy and pessimistic and, we're alive. We're only on this earth for who knows how long, and I don't want to live it being pessimistic and jaded and grouchy and thinking everyone is just useless. But unfortunately, that's kind of how I feel right now. And it just gets old when you're the person whose shoulders that it usually falls on, especially when you're the one that goes out of the way to not make poor decisions, to not make stupid decisions. So when you're going out of your way to make good choices and yet you're still suffering consequences of those that aren't, it starts to piss you off. It starts to make you tired. It starts to make you resentful. It's just not how I want to keep living my life. So I've had to learn boundaries and I've had to learn that no is okay to say and that it's not a bad word. And, the boundaries, the whole thing that you hear in counseling all the time. I know it's like incredibly cliche, but It's true. That's why it's cliche. Cliches and stereotypes are usually cliches and stereotypes because they are, for the most part, more often than not, they are true. So, oh my God, my dog is playing in her water dish and just getting all the water that I just filled up everywhere. Gwendolyn, you're a menace. But I also find that the older that I get, the less I'm willing to tolerate because, again, you start realizing that life is short and you've earned the right to be treated well, especially if you're working and you're a good person. I mean, maybe you haven't earned it if you're a piece of crap, but um, I've just learned finally to have boundaries, to say no, and that's perfectly acceptable. That's an acceptable answer, and other people don't have to like it. I'm not asking anyone to like it. That's my answer. They can like it or not like it. That's up to them. But regardless, it's still my answer. I've never cared what people think. That's a good thing and a bad thing, I guess. I mean, of course, I care what people think, as in I want to conduct myself as a respectful person. I want to have manners. I want to be a hard worker. I want to be a good parent, a good grandparent, a good partner, a good friend. I just mean, if you agree with my politics, my religion, my hairstyle, my music, great. We have something in common. We can talk. If you don't agree, great. We still have something in common. We can still talk, whether you agree or not. You can still talk. In fact, that's probably the best conversations. I think the best conversations are people that don't agree, as long as you can be respectful and not talk over each other. As long as you can take the time to listen and actually hear each other out and not interrupt or talk over or sit there and wait until you say something. I hate that when people do that. They're not listening to you at all. They're just waiting to inject their point of view into the conversation. They're just waiting for that moment to interrupt you. They're not actually receiving what you're saying at all. That's annoying. I've done it. Oh God, I've done it. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Half the time when I bitch about something, it's probably because I've done it too. Again, I've never claimed to be perfect. Lord knows I'm not. Don't think that I am. This is no like righteous on my high horse soapbox. This is myself included. There's times that I am not at my best, and I have my flaws for sure. But right now, I'm speaking specifically about addicts. Oh my God. I'm telling you, this will teach me for doing my podcast on my phone like a freaking weirdo. My phone keeps ringing because drama. And this is why I'm doing my podcast, because of this drama. And I know I should start over and I should just be like, scrap the podcast and call it a day, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to even. I just can't. I'm not going to do it. So unfortunately, as promised, my podcast will always have weird sounds in the back and flaws, and it will not be perfect, and it'll be full of annoying stuff, probably. Full of pauses and me bidening out and forgetting what the hell I was talking about before my phone rang for the 90th time or my dog wandered off. Anyway, but I was talking about being an addict, and it's just infuriating when you are the one picking up the pieces. So I want people to understand that, again, I know that it's a disease. I understand that it is incredibly difficult for the person with the disease. And I'm not bashing on anybody with an addiction at all. I like opiates. I could easily get very addicted to them. And which leads me to my next thing actually, is that, people keep talking about if you legalize things, then no one will want to do it because it'll kind of take that stigma out of it, or it will make it more common. And it's like, but do we want to do that? Because here's what I have to say. If they started making, say, opiates, some Dilaudid, some Oxycontin, some Percocet, if they started making those things just on the shelf where I could just purchase them like you can marijuana or like you can alcohol, I can safely say that's not going to help an addiction. That's not going to help anyone's addiction. That's going to further it. They're going to be like, so I can just get a card and go into a shop and get some opiates. Sweet. Sign me up. Or, again, I feel horrible for people that are addicted to alcohol because it is quite literally everywhere. There's people that socially drink. You can't go to a restaurant without seeing someone with a drink. You can't go to a sporting event without someone with a drink, or a concert, or to a store, or to a mini mart, or to freaking children's birthday parties, or apparently to like a library with transgenders. Like, you can probably start drinking there too now. I'm sure they'll legalize that. Legalize drinking in a library with children and transgender people telling a story while doing a lap dance and getting money for it. I mean, hell, let's just legalize every damn thing, because supposedly that takes the stigma out of it. Do we want to take the stigma out of opiates and drugs and stuff? Why do we want to take the stigma out of it? Don't we want to keep that so that it's not a common, normal thing? I'm confused by that logic. I really am. And people are going to go, well, look at marijuana. Are people abusing marijuana? Oh, yes. Yes, people are 100% abusing marijuana. Yeah. Yeah. I can list you off the top of my head like 25 right this very second, people I know that are abusing marijuana. Now, that said, a lot of people can handle smoking and performing tasks and being a functioning member of society. Now, I'm not recommending smoking and going to work, or smoking and operating machinery. I'm not saying that's okay. I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying most people, if they smoke, don't get violent. They don't go around causing riots and stealing and shooting people and all of that crap. Usually people that smoke just eat a lot, talk a lot, sleep a lot, or are super happy or space out. Now, again, you don't want to do that when you're going to work. You don't want to do that when you're operating any type of vehicle or machinery, of course, or when you're, responsible for someone else's well-being and you need to be on your game. But you don't really hear of people that smoke pot harming people. I'm not saying that it makes it okay. I'm just saying it's a little different than like meth and alcohol and opiates. And if we're going to start saying that it's okay to have a smidge, just a little smidge of crack, just a little smidge of meth, that's okay. That's cool. Okay, so that line's going to get bigger and bigger. And if it's okay to have a smidge, they're going to go, well, it's only a smidge over a smidge. It's just a dollop over a smidge. So come on, don't put me in jail. And then they're going to go, because it's Oregon. Okay, you're right. You're probably a really great person. You're probably a pedophile, and we love pedophiles in Oregon. So we'll let you do drugs and be a pedophile and have your own flag. That'll be cool. And you can have your own month too. And you won't go to jail, and we'll just keep furthering that bar of how much is allowed. But, God forbid you frickin' jaywalk. God forbid you talk about liking our country and loving our country. Well, fuck no. You can be a complete addict, any type of addict, crackhead, meth head, whatever. Perfectly acceptable nowadays. But if you're Republican or straight or Christian or just normal, That is just inexcusable. That is not okay. Come on, guys, it's too hot. Let's go. Trying to let my dogs out and throw the ball for them a bit before it gets too hot. But I already did that earlier this morning twice. But I think now it's getting a little too tusty. Which, by the way, quick reminder to people, just quick reminder, please, please, please do not bring your dogs out on concrete or asphalt if you can't touch your hand on the concrete and keep it there for a few seconds without it burning, without it being hot, then your dog's paws have zero business, zero, being touching the ground. Your dog should not be going on walks or touching pavement or concrete or anything like rocks, anything that can, be hot to you, anything that's hot to your feet or hot to your hand should not be touching your dog's feet. Just FYI, it gives them second and third degree burns, and it can quite literally rip off their pads. Do you know how painful that would be? You are torturing your dogs by doing it. So just a little, what's it called? PSI? I don't know what it's called. Little public safety announcement, PSA. Little PSA. Please. And obviously, we all know this by now. Don't bring your dogs anywhere when it's like 69 degrees. I don't know what Fahrenheit that is for all of you Fahrenheit people. I mean, everybody in the world's Fahrenheit except for America because we're dumb. I don't know why we don't use the metric system. We just had to be different. Although I have to say, I'd be lost if I had to use the metric system. Obviously, I'd learn. I would learn because I would have to, and we should be doing it. But at any rate, whatever that is in Celsius, don't leave your dogs in a car. Like if it's 65 or hotter out degrees in Fahrenheit, you shouldn't be having your dogs in a car, even with the windows cracked. I know we all should know this by now. I hope and pray everybody knows this by now. I hope this isn't news, but if it is, you're welcome because your dog will die. So, that out of the way, addicts just are exhausting me right now, and I've been surrounded by them for 50 years, quite literally, and I mean the word literally, since the day I was born. And I have yet to be away from them. And it is not because I choose to be with them. It's because they've been my family members or my employers. And I can quit, but it's hard for many different reasons. But I definitely could quit and plan to do so if things don't change. But I got to tell you, there are many people that have to deal with an addict in their family. And again, I understand how hard it is for the addict. I'm not knocking addicts. I completely understand that it is a disease. So I'll say that again, in case you didn't hear the first couple of times. I genuinely mean it. But I am here to talk about the other side of it. And I've gone to Al-Anon a couple of times. I try not to enable, but I have definitely enabled. And that's a disease, and that's not good. It's, the whole psyche behind that is fascinating. But enabling doesn't work, obviously. Sometimes when it's a family member, it's really difficult not to because you really don't want to see someone that you love and care about fall and hurt themselves or anyone else. You want to protect them. But of course, sometimes the very best thing that can happen is failure and picking up your own pieces and being accountable. So, yeah, sometimes you have to let that happen for that person to finally wake up. You never know what it's going to take. It might take a near-death experience. It might take them actually killing someone else. It might take them, who knows? The addict has to love something else more than they love themselves. And that's hard to do because, again, when you're an addict, you love that more than anything usually. And the sad thing is, it's not always family that makes an addict turn around. They have to want it. And if they don't want it, doesn't matter how much you love someone else or love something else, it's never, ever going to change. And they're always going to drink because, again, you have to love something else more than you love your drug of choice. So that's not me peeing in the background. That is my cooler. Getting some water, getting my hydration on. Important, of course. I am not hydrated at all. My skin is looking terrible, and my head is killing me today. I am exhausted, and my head's killing me, and I'm drained mentally and physically. And water. I need water. Which again, how awesome is it that I live in a country where I can get water, and yet not every country has access to clean running water. And yet the things that we are bitching about is if a man has a penis or a vagina, if a woman has a penis or a vagina, and if men can lactate or not. That's the topic of conversation in a first world country, folks. We bitch about useless, crazy, irrelevant, nonsensical things over here because we have nothing better to do with our time. So we sit here and complain about trivial things that other countries probably point and laugh and they're like, America, look at them. Meanwhile, we have no freaking running water, or we have running water, but it's not drinkable. We have malaria. We have the militia. We have the cartel. We have disease. We have no food. We have homeless. But hey, you know what's important? If a transgender man can go into a woman's bathroom or play in women's sports, that's what we should be arguing about. That's the important stuff, folks. Not about addiction, not about our economy, not about all the homeless dogs and the dogs that get euthanized every single day because people are fucking stupid and adopt dogs that they shouldn't have and don't do their homework, or they don't get their dogs fixed. No, we're not talking about the fact that Oregon decided to just throw all standards out the window when it comes to education. No, we don't care if our kids are dumb and we don't educate them and we don't give a shit if they're educated or not. We don't care because there's transgender issues on the table. There are Black Lives Matter issues. There is Juneteenth, folks. Fuck our veterans. Fuck our military, right? Now, for those of you just joining in, obviously, I don't mean that. Obviously, I mean the opposite, and that's my point. So I hope you didn't just tune in right when I was in the middle of saying that. But honestly, I think we need to get a real perspective that if you live in America, you have it going on, even if you're homeless, really, because the homeless at this point have more than people that are working, along with the illegal immigrants. Not the legal migrants, but the illegal aliens and the addicts. They're getting everything. They're just gobbling up every bit of our time and energy to the point that I am so fucking exhausted. I don't know if I'm coming or going. I keep hoping that I'm just so tired that all of this has just been one big weird illusion, one big like hallucination. And I'm going to wake up and women will be women again and men will be men again. Fuck George Floyd. I don't care if his family's listening. I know he's a human and I know he's an addict. And I realize again that he's a human being, but he's a shit human being. And I'm not going to stand up for and try to make excuses for a shit person. Sorry that their lives, that they chose to make certain decisions in their lives and that they chose not to obey the law. I'm sorry that he made really poor choices. I hate it when people go, but I'm a really good human. Oh, sure, maybe you are underneath all of that, but that is completely irrelevant to your actions. Your words are saying you're a good human, but your actions are saying a whole different story. They're telling a whole different story. When did we start sticking up for the bullies? When did we start sticking up for the pedophiles? When did we start supporting mutilating our children and start being pro having our children be stupid and not get an education? Like, we're just on board, completely all for having our kids be indoctrinated. And when did we start backing down and cowering to other countries and supporting countries that are terrorists like Iran, and supporting Hamas and supporting just terrorists in general? When did this start? Let's see. I would say approximately 4 years ago. I don't know. It's been going on for a long time. A politician is a politician, Democrat or Republican. Look, I'm not complaining that Republicans are perfect. Fuck no. If you're in politics, you may go into politics really genuinely wanting to do good. And you're like, dang it, go America. I love America. Yeah, America. Fuck yeah. But usually they end up getting to you. They get to you. I can't speak for every single person that works in government. I'm just saying the vast majority end up going down that dirty, dark road into the woods. You know, it's just sad. It's just sad. And I don't know. I'm just over it every single time I turn on anything. So I don't have cable TV, meaning I don't have any idea like what shows are out or anything. I usually will just watch like the Roku channel, or watch like YouTube stuff, or just watch old shows, that have like reruns of old shows. And I'm like West Wing and Psych and House and Big Bang and that kind of stuff. Where I love, love, love documentaries. Absolutely love them. Love biographies, that kind of stuff. But it's sad to me that you just don't know who to trust anymore, because every time you turn on the TV, you see an ad for something. And we all know that, especially when it's some kind of medical thing, some kind of pharmacy, that they give you that whole list of what the side effects are. But no one tells you what the side effects are of letting our country down and voting for the wrong people. No one really talks about the consequences of voting the wrong people in office. And I mean, on a city council level, I'm talking in your community. City council members very much make a difference. Your mayor makes a difference. I'm not just talking about the president. We need to start actually paying attention to voting on ballot measures too. Even though they're obnoxious to read and they're always worded to try to trick you, we need to educate ourselves and figure out what exactly that ballot measure stands for and really educate ourselves on it, because they like to word things very tricky to try to goat you into shit. But we're addicted to social media. We're addicted to what people think of us. We're addicted to the attention. Sorry, my dog is panting because he desperately wants the ball because we can't go outside to play. So now he's deciding that he needs to really make it known that it's not acceptable not to go outside and play ball. Anyway, I just am exhausted by all of the pushing and pushing and pushing, and yet we're not pushing toward anything that is healthy or safe or educational. We're pushing toward people having liposuction and gastric bypass surgery and doing their lips and Botox and tanning and hair extensions. And now we are pushed into cutting off our body parts and mutilating ourselves. We're addicted to fentanyl. We're addicted to things that are just beyond stupid, like when people were doing the Tide Pod thing. I guess people didn't get addicted to Tide Pods, but it's just like people are addicted to followers and they'll do whatever it takes, even if it's something that's not safe. And that's exhausting for a parent if it's your child, because you don't want something to happen to your child, obviously, and you want to raise them where they're not sheeples. But nowadays, I guess it's just cool to be the same, to follow. I remember back in my day, it was cool to be diverse. Diversity. Remember that? Diverse doesn't mean the same. Those are opposite things, in case people didn't know. So why are we pushing to be put in a box again and have labels again and go backwards? I don't get that. I don't get why we are going back in time and fixing something that wasn't broken to begin with. Why are we trying to undo decades of hard work just to go back and have segregated schools again, just to put labels on people again, just to really, really point out that everyone's the same and not different? I don't get that. I don't know. To each his own again, but just stop trying to push it on me because I'm too old. And I've never cared what anybody else thinks, and I'm certainly not going to start now. Your odds of that have gone out the window many moons ago. I mean, like I said, I've never cared. I care what my family thinks, I care what my friends think, and that's it. But again, addicts, if you're dealing with someone that's an addict, I'm very sorry because it is hard. I don't think people talk about that aspect of it enough. It's important, of course, to support if an addict is genuinely trying to quit. But I hate to say it, I'm always just so like, yeah, actions speak louder than words. Because again, an addict's words usually don't mean a hill of beans. And even if you're not an addict, I've just always been an actions speak louder than words kind of person. So I don't know. It's a crazy world out there. And if you're getting through it, even though that quicksand is engulfing you and you're still putting up a fight, well, frickin' you deserve a lot of credit. And if you haven't got it, I'm giving it. Oh my God, my dogs. If you haven't got the pat on the back you need or deserve, I'm giving one to you right now. If you haven't got the hug or the thank you or the appreciation that you need or deserve, I'm sending it to you right now. Ready? Here we go. Hugs, oh, love, support, encouragement. And remember to try and take time for yourself and remember to take those deep breaths. They're important. Without it, well, you're dead. Anyway, hey, thanks for tuning in. Until next time.